Straw Hut Media.
Hi, I'm Lucy Blehar.
I'm Kyle Kasabian.
I'm Mary Ryan.
And don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Hi there. This is Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, and I am Jake Hogan. And please feel free to email me at dbawjk@gmail.com, and I will respond to you in whatever way you responded to me. If you're mean, I'll be mean back. And if you're delightful, I'll be delightful back. It's really your call. But I will ask this one thing of you. Right now, if you're watching the YouTube, there's a little subscribe button. Subscribe. Now, I'm not saying that every episode is going to be great. As a matter of fact, I can assure you that every episode won't be great. But if you subscribe, I will get some kind of premium. Some prize goes to me. So honestly, that would relieve so many of my problems if you subscribe. Today's show, we're going to be talking about age a little bit, because I'm going to have three really talented young comedians, comedy performers, improv writers, performers, coming on to talk to me about what it's like to be, a young performer now. I was what they were 40 years ago. When I started working 40 years ago in a show, I was working on a TV show called The Tracy Ullman Show. I was like the baby. And around me were all these, what I thought were old people. I assure you that I'm older than the oldest person on that staff now. But it seemed like they were old people. There's one guy in particular, very funny, one of the funniest guys ever, Jerry Belson. I think he grew up in California, and I think he was like 46, but he had the demeanor of a Brooklyn guy who was 83. So he would just sit there and go, oh. He would hold his stomach and complain and then every now and then say something funny. And he would always say something funny as he was bending over, holding his stomach in pain. I always thought, at what point am I going to be Jerry Belson? At what point will I be that old guy in the room, maybe still funny, but a little hokey, and maybe if it didn't come out of Jerry, we would say it's a little hacky. But Jerry made it cool. I don't want to be hacky. Am I hacky? Am I there? Are people rolling their eyes when I'm pitching stuff? Is there stuff that's going on in the world that I just don't get and I don't understand because I'm too old, my age? I would imagine there is, but I'm going to be talking to these three comics. Lucy Blehar, Kyle Kasabian, and Mary Ryan are going to be here, and they're going to be talking about working with me because we wrote a pilot together, and they're going to be talking about what it's like to struggle and succeed in today's show business when we come back. Right after you subscribe. Did you subscribe yet? Okay, subscribe. All right, right after this.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
So here we are on Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. Thank you for being my guest on Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. Your name is Lucy Blehar?
Yes.
Okay, and your name is Kyle Kasabian?
Yes, correct.
And your name, I can't pronounce your last name.
I know,
It's
my name is hard altogether. Mary Ryan.
Say it again?
Mary Ryan.
Ryan?
Ryan.
You should change that.
Yeah, you should change that.
Yeah.
Not Irish at all.
Kasabian's a lot
Ryan.
easier. So I should say, I know the three of you because we have been working on a project together for quite some time.
Yeah.
We've been working on a really funny pilot that you two wrote a really funny show. And then I went to go see it at the UCB and immediately said, oh, let's make this into a thing. And you were directing that show?
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so we became sort of this unwieldy team.
Yeah.
Right? And which was great and exciting for me because I was like really asking one of the producers of our show, whose name is Naomi Odenkirk. Mm-hmm. So I went to her and said, I want to do something fun and interesting that I normally don't do. If you hear of anything, let me know. And she sort of waved me in and said, this could be fun. And I went, yes, this is great. And my idea was to try and sort of do something that I wouldn't ordinarily do with people who I wouldn't ordinarily hang out with. I wouldn't know. And it was fantastic. Yeah. I met you guys. You guys are really talented and fun. But this show is all about me and my problems. It's Jake Hogan. Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Yes. It's not about us.
And the core problem is I fear that I am, well, not fear, I probably am an old fogey. that I am this old guy who tells you, that's not funny. Pickles are funny. And just
Right.
like,
You say that so much.
Jesus.
You do talk about pickles a lot.
Pickles. Well, I mean, that's to be fair. They're funny. They're green.
Yeah.
They have funny
They
cuss
are
sound.
funny, yeah.
Sometimes they have
Their
warts.
shape is funny.
Yeah, their shape is funny. There's that the phallic thing you can't get away from.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's all
I
good.
can never get away from that phallic thing.
But I have. You guys are comparative youngsters. I'm gonna say you're what we say you're Gen Z.
Yeah.
For the purposes of selling our show.
We're definitely
Right,
Gen Z.
we're Gen
For the
Z.
purposes of selling our
I'm
show.
I'm only 15 years old.
Wasn't that what we said?
Yeah.
That we're now Gen Z.
Yes.
This is
We've
a Gen Z
agreed
show.
that we're now Gen Z.
We're
Okay, but-
all 21
But
Yeah.
you're actually
We're young.
What's the one above Gen Z?
millennials.
But we're actually
So you're actually millennials. Are there significant differences in our approach to comedy and our approach to life that you have noticed over the course of the 4 years we have been working together on this? But 4 years, people. The reason why it's 4 years is because show business has been changing around us as we've been making a show, and we've been very careful as to when to release this thing so that it would actually get bought.
Right.
And we've been so
And we've
careful.
had unprecedented events,
Yeah.
a global pandemic, a strike.
Strikes and thing, and we were holding this like a Tiffany egg, like a beautiful, Fabergé egg.
Yeah.
And there's like we love it. It's a very funny idea. I don't want to give it away here, but it's a very funny idea, and it's a very funny idea and a very interesting female friendship-based relationship show that's fantastic.
Thank you.
It is, and that's why you brought me in for the female-based
that's-
relationship
It didn't
show.
become fantastic until you were a part of it.
Well,
I do feel like it's remiss not to mention that, like, when Naomi brought you to see our live show at UCB, she was like, this is my old friend Jay. He's a very accomplished writer, producer. And me and Lucy and Kyle were like, oh, but like he's a dude. He's like an older guy. We were a
like,
little.
why is he interested in this?
Yeah, we were like, one, why does he care? And two, does he really want to write about like women at this time? And then you saw the show, and then we all talked afterwards. And
First, I saw the show and said I liked it.
Yeah.
Then I was introduced.
Yeah.
Because I would have run screaming from the theater and say, no,
not me.
Right, me. But no, I believe that any writer should be able to write anything. Now that's maybe old school. Like I think if I want to write about Arab American relations as a Jew from Encino, I should be able to write about that. And if I want to write about what it's like to be a struggling woman in Los Angeles, trying to figure, I should be able to write about that too. As long as I didn't school you and say, this is how you guys should live your life.
He
I was
didn't do
listening
that.
to what you guys were saying and say, that's funny and that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should be able to write whatever you want, and
Right.
I also think it should be good.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's-
Right.
I think that's the only rule, is that it should be good.
It should be good.
If you're
has
gonna
to be
like
good.
step out of your lane a little bit.
Right, and researched and real and something like that. That makes sense. So people who are, it's not just stereotypical and something from a old dude's point of view.
Right. I mean, I remember when we talked backstage, you like kind of got the point of the show right away. And you were like, oh, I like that this is like about like deprivation and like living in that world. And we were like, oh yeah, that is. So you saw us for
Right.
what it was. But if it had, I don't think if you had that same reaction to the show, maybe it wouldn't, maybe after 4 years we wouldn't have worked together. But you saw it for what it was.
But what if you can recall, what was my most old man moment? Like, what's the thing where I was
know
like,
what it is.
this was like, oh, I don't know. Yeah.
It was when you suggested that we name the show Biffles.
Yeah.
Well, I had a sweet little
Biffles.
doggy named Biffles.
There was also
we didn't know that.
We didn't
Name was
know
after your
that.
dog?
Yeah.
Wasn't there also a title that you came up with that was
Yeah.
something like
Egg
Friend
McMuffin.
Muffins? It was something muffins.
It was called Egg McMuffins, right?
That's
Entirely
entirely
Was
branded.
it
We
called
couldn't
like
do that.
Dust Muffins?
Dust
was
muffins.
Maybe
I
it
don't
was
know.
dust. It was something muffin.
It was
I don't-
something none of us had ever heard before, and you're like, yeah, it's a fun term for friends.
And we were like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
Dust muffins.
But like that's like a pretty innocent offense for like your
Biffles
worst
Yeah.
thing.
I don't know why you turned down Biffles. Biffles.
Why don't we pitch it as Biffles?
Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that there's.
Is Biffles best friends for life? Is that what
Yes.
Biffles is?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This old man got it. I got it.
I'm trying to think of like in the room when we were writing the pilot, if there were ever moments where you suggested a joke and we all kind of were like,
But that's everybody.
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
It's normal to suggest a shitty joke and people
Yeah.
politely go, maybe, but let's think about some other things. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're not like screaming slurs or anything.
No.
Like it's not
in front of you.
Not in public. Yeah.
fair.
But boy,
When the
you
mics
left the
are off.
room. In the introduction that you weren't here for. I talked about when I was 20 years old, working with a bunch of 40 going on 50-year-olds and rolling my eyes a lot because I felt like they're very funny, but I didn't feel like they connected with a lot of what they pitched seemed a little hacky or old-fashioned, and even when they said it was funny, it felt like that's funny, but I've heard it before kind of stuff. And so I know for a fact, 100%, I have pitched things that we have got 100%. And it's like, okay, but the question, you don't have to remember what it was, but how do you deal with? Did you have meetings separately saying this is our cool pass, and then we'll let Kogan in on that other thing?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think we probably
Yeah.
did.
Well,
We
you
did.
always let us write first, and then
Yeah.
you always let us take the first pass.
Right. Well,
And then
that's-
you would help, and then you did a good job of like coming in when you needed, and then staying away when.
trying to let you have your authenticity.
Yeah.
You need to have your authenticity.
But I know there was definitely those moments.
All right, yeah.
We've been working on this for 4 years, so
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
it got
Yeah.
lost in my brain.
I remember some moments, and I think it was you and our other producers too, where we had to explain terms. Like we had to explain what a plant zaddy was. What
Yes.
a zaddy?
Yes.
What
A
is a
zaddy.
zaddy?
Zaddy.
I still
And we
don't
explain a
uncomfortable with zaddy.
fuckboy, but you know what a fuckboy is at
Oh
this
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
A zaddy
I'm kind of a
could be
fuckboy.
so many things.
Jay
Yeah.
said he's kind of a
I'm
fuckboy.
kind of a
No, you're
fuckboy. Yeah.
He's been married for what?
Actually, we heard
30
your
years
marriage
happily.
story, and maybe you kind of are.
Oh yeah.
No, he's
right.
not.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about Brown Sugar Kogan this weekend.
Yeah, she's all right.
Yeah, I love her.
She's
Big
been
fans.
she's had a seat at this desk in the past.
I know.
Yes, I
I watched
loved her episode.
We
Yeah.
watched.
But and she loves you guys.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm zaddy. I still don't like it. You've explained it to me.
Oh, you don't
Yeah,
have to
It's
like
not
it.
good.
Yeah.
It's not like a good thing.
Zaddy.
No.
It's
How would
like-
you
it's-
explain zaddy? Like,
Well,
what?
I wouldn't. I think it's just. It's
Like
what's
a-
funny about Zaddy.
Is it
I
Zaddy
think is
and-
that things move so quickly. Is that now I feel like it's kind of like
It's hack now.
it's kind of hacked to be like, oh,
It's
we're doing the
chuggy.
Zaddy thing now.
Yeah.
Isn't zaddy like a hottie? Like a
Yeah,
hot
it's like
dude?
it's literally just calling someone
Yeah.
like daddy
Like
in
a
like
hot
kind
older
of a
man.
trendy way.
An older man.
But-
Yeah.
and
Like a
he
mid-
like- it's not always
he
a
pays
zad-
for all your stuff.
That's what's interesting
Sugar
about
daddy?
plant zaddy is that it doesn't. I think a plant zaddy doesn't have to be an older man necessarily.
Yeah, I think a zaddy is more so someone who's just embodying this like ownership of whatever the situation is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a state
Yeah.
of
Like it's a
state
dominating
of
type of
mind.
like they're the dom.
mind.
Okay, so it's like alpha. An
Yes,
alpha guy.
yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then our character who's the plant zaddy is not at all
Yeah.
alpha. I think that he is. He
No,
does not
but
seem
He's
alpha.
delusional though.
All right.
Things are changing so quickly all the time.
Yeah.
But I also think that like the stuff that we watched and were like raised on were stuff that like you were probably working on, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
But the world hasn't changed that much between like the
Did
90s
you watch
and
Boy
early
Meets
2000s
World? Did you watch Boy Meets
to
World?
now.
Yes.
Did you work
loved
on
it.
that?
No.
Oh.
But I just wondered if you like Boy
It
Meets
was
World.
Like, it's fun, but I just feel
We
like
liked it.
the stuff that you were watching as a kid, like the stuff
so
that was
excited.
like, they were like, oh, this is a killer bit. I'm
Right.
sure felt
Yeah.
more hacked to you than in the reverse for us to.
Maybe, but I mean, I watched stuff that those people had made and worked on. You know, Jerry Belson, I mentioned before, created The Odd Couple with Gary Marshall, and he'd written on. I grew up watching that. Like I don't know, it was more like James L. Brooks was one of the people also in that room, and nothing he ever said felt hacky because he was not even based in the world of jokes. It was based in the world of character, and that was like so much better. But people who are like pitching jokes sometimes it can feel like, oh, I've heard that before. I just know where the joke is going, and here it is. And sometimes the delivery would sell it. Like, okay, well, Jerry Belson would sell it with his delivery, and we'd put it in, and then the actor would say it, and they couldn't say it because you have to say it like Jerry Belson in order to get a laugh. So it screwed everything up anyway. But thank God he's dead.
Well,
So we
right.
don't have to worry
Rest
about
in
that.
peace.
God.
Yes. Rest in power, Jerry
I
Belson.
think like we're in this generation, Gen Z, no, millennials are like constantly trying to like prove themselves and be like create the next best thing and do the next, and I'm sure every generation feels this way, but I feel like with TV especially, like TV is so competitive, and I feel like sometimes you would pitch stuff that seemed so simple to me, like we can't write about it has to be way more complex than that, like our characters blah blah, and you would just be like, why don't they just go home as friends and hold hands and they're like friends. And we're like, no, there has to be a murder they witnessed. You know, because I'm like, TV has just gotten so cuckoo and like,
But
so
I mean,
that's where I felt like sometimes I was like, Jay, that's way too simple.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe I was always looking for the emotional connection to the silly. So like we can do the silly, but I wanted to be connected emotionally to something real, so that we had something to build on.
Yeah.
Now that could be completely old-fashioned.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
I feel like we're doing the opposite because we're supposed to be like, you know, critiquing you, but I'm gonna say another compliment.
Fantastic.
Is that you also you were like one of the only people that ever were like, well, it's a show about two women. Like we already have that. We already have a bunch of those. Like you never really ever, never crossed your mind.
It's not a show about two particular women.
Yeah, but like a lot of people have said that to us over the years. Like, well, there's a lot of shows about two women.
Yeah, well, so is I Love Lucy.
Exactly.
I Love Lucy was a show about two women, so no other shows can be about two women?
Right.
It's insane. Laverne and Shirley is the last show that can be about two women? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, because when people say that, I'm on the side of the creators saying like, you people are prejudging something that you can't possibly know whether it's good or bad. It's insane to make those judgments. Well, we can't sell it because this happened or that happened, or you know, there's a sitcom already about a work situation, so there can be no more work situation. Fuck you. It's like, it makes no sense.
Or people would say like, oh, this is too similar to that show. This is too similar to this hit show, and we're like, well, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, that show did really well.
We're gonna do that formula as well. Like,
Right.
there's a million stories that are the same thing, just with like a different setting, a different person.
No one knows anything, and I think that sometimes people use excuses to say, I'm not confident in this idea. So they say things that don't really make complete sense when you pull them out, but basically it's saying, well, like those comments were coming from agents, I recall. We pitched into my agency or some other manager say, well, there's the two women show has been kind of done. It's like, what? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
It just meant, what I heard was, oh, it's going to be a lot of work to sell this thing, and I don't really want to put my back into it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do my job at my work.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
No,
So
not
it's
today.
like, so that was frustrating. But oh well, you know, that we're gonna try and sell it anyway.
Yeah.
So despite whether they want to do it.
all
We'll be
that.
selling it. It will be sold.
All right, so I came to comedy and from all this from Los Angeles. I was kind of raised out here. So to me, it was like a 20-minute drive to go over the hill and, you know, to get to here. You guys are all from everywhere else. You're from Cleveland?
Pittsburgh.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're gonna get some
You had that one
Pittsburgh
locked
people
and
on
loaded,
you.
didn't you? When did you write that? A couple weeks ago?
When I asked you guys to
Yeah.
come. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On his
Cleveland.
typewriter.
I'm from Cleveland.
So Pittsburgh.
Yes, Pittsburgh.
What was your comedy influence in Pittsburgh? Like, what was the thing that said, okay, I'm a performer and this show business life is for me at Pittsburgh?
I think I was just always, I never have an answer that's like, oh, I saw this play, or like I saw this movie and then I realized like, oh, I love Ghostbusters. It wasn't that. It was just kind of like I
famously
always
hated Ghostbusters.
Famous. Everyone knows my whole identity is built around hating Ghostbusters. But I was just always like a goofy weirdo. Like I was always putting on little plays. I don't even remember when I started, but my mom told me that one day I was like, I want to take singing and dancing lessons. So then she like was amazing and just like supported that, and they put me in all the classes, and I did like improv at a young age at this little community like school that was just down the street. I would march down the street with my trail mix, my granola bars, and take my little improv class. And then when I found out that you could actually do that as a career and it wasn't just a fun thing that I do after school, I was sold.
Lucy like does such great like impersonations of people from Pittsburgh, and I feel like you get a lot of your comedy from like
It's too easy to make fun of those. I mean, you know Pittsburghese, right? The way that they speak there, like yins and all that.
No.
Like yins going downtown to watch them Stillers playing all that.
exactly.
Right?
But those are the people, genuine people that I grew up around. And my parents are very funny.
Okay.
And I just like to laugh. So I think I just wanted to, I always just
So
wanted
you
to go
have joy
for
in
it.
your heart.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic,
Yeah, I
Lucy.
do. I do.
Joy in your
Lucy has
heart.
joy
Joy in my heart.
And you guys are dead inside, so how'd you get to comedy?
Yeah. Well, I'm from Delaware. Shout out.
Boring.
Hilarious.
Tell us what you know about it.
Yeah, okay. It's the first state. Joe Biden's from Delaware. How I came into all this, I was in The Music Man when I was in second grade, and I was in the ensemble. And
Marion the librarian?
I was not a person on the program.
Right.
I was in the ensemble.
Okay.
And I literally walked up on stage
Townsperson?
maybe twice, as
Okay,
a townsperson, and I literally have never felt a high like that. Because it was the first time I ever was on stage, and I was just like literally like, oh my God, and I've been chasing that high ever since.
Right. So you were just in the background going, trouble.
Trouble in River City.
Right? And
Yeah.
that's it. And you said, I want to do this forever.
I just like instantly knew. My mom said I like something like came alive in me, like my eyes widened, and I was like,
Right.
okay, yeah, this is it. I can like even still see it.
This kid in Delaware loved the shows and then said,
Yeah.
okay, why didn't you go to Broadway? Why didn't you, it's shorter distance.
Because I don't have I can sing, but not that well. And you really have to sing well to be on Broadway.
Yeah.
The
Or
Olympians
you're
or-
like already
Yeah.
a star who gets cast in like the
Yeah, if you're-
reboot of To Kill a Mockingbird or something like that.
Right. No, if your show goes and
Yeah.
you become successful, you'll be asked to do a Broadway part.
and
You'll be in cabaret.
We would
Literally,
totally
that's how I'm
do
planning
it.
to get there.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
It's
become a
It's
celebrity
true.
first.
We are like the three of us are like theater nerds. I think at our core. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where you start. You have in small towns, all you have access to is like theater. So
Yeah.
Austin Powers came out again when I was like in second or third grade around that same
Jesus.
time, and I was like, and my parents let me watch it. And I just remember, one, I learned a lot about the birds and the bees.
Okay.
And two, I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. Like this guy acting like a complete, like just weirdo and
Yeah.
and this accent and all of it. Yeah, something definitely came alive in me when I like saw Austin
Yeah.
Powers.
Well, Jake worked on that, right?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, oh
And
God. So
Oh my
it's
God,
like
you were
second grade.
destined.
That was our goal.
The Spy Who
We got to
Shagged
get.
Me.
Mike Myers said, "I got to get these second graders."
Yeah.
I got to get these second
The
graders.
90s were a different time. We weren't like wearing sunscreen as a kid.
And so and you're from some other East Coast.
Yeah, I'm from like an hour outside of Boston.
Yeah. What's the town?
It's called Tingsboro.
It was like a cloth capital of the world. They used to
The
make
Mills.
The Mills. Yeah.
Jack
Cloth
Kerouac
capital.
is from
Yeah.
Lowell.
Oh,
Have you ever seen The
wow.
Fighter? That it takes
Sure.
place in Lowell. That was
Yeah.
a big when they were filming The Fighter in Lowell. Everyone was like, "We're going to
cousin-
be extras in The Fighter."
My cousin Billy lives in Lowell.
Fighter.
Yeah, similar to them. Theater attention whores.
Right.
My dad was like so into movies and TV and stuff, and we watched a lot of movies at home. He loved the Three Stooges, and what else were we into? I guess like similarly, there was a huge explosion of really broad comedies in like
In
the
the
late
90s.
80s, early 90s
Yeah.
and stuff that like I was way too young to be watching
Yeah.
and was
Okay.
thrown at me. My father was called into school because I was telling the kids to stop humping the laser beam.
Okay.
So thank you for that.
Wasn't me, but you wrote.
Take
Yeah.
credit.
All right. No.
Yeah.
In the
credit.
spirit, steal
Yeah,
credit.
okay. Yeah.
Um,
It's all me.
Yeah,
Mike Myers had nothing to do with that movie. It's weird. You'd think he had everything to do with it, writing the screenplay. No.
Nope.
but yeah, just did all that, and then early on, I think for a lot of people, like our early exposure to stuff is like through movies and TV, and you see the only thing you can really wrap your head around is the actors that are in it. So I was like, oh, well, that's the only thing I can see. That's how I have to pursue.
Get
So
it.
I hit that really hard for like the first maybe like 18, 19 years of my life.
Right.
I was like doing shows and like making sketches with friends and
Right.
stuff. And then you get here and you're like, I'm with the unearned confidence that only a 19-year-old can have.
Right.
And you're like, oh, no one gives a shit.
Right.
And then you have to start making stuff for yourself.
Right.
And trying to figure out the best way to showcase yourself. And then you meet so many
Yeah.
incredibly talented people and you're like, oh, well, they're great. And like, maybe I'll just write jokes for them.
Right.
And like, then you just that's sort of, I think, how I found my way into writing more is that it was just, I don't know, out of necessity. And I also think that like we came into all this at a very weird time where they
Yeah.
were like suddenly like, oh, you have to be able to do everything now. You can't
You have
just
to
show up
produce,
and-
write,
Right.
act.
and
Do you
all
feel
that.
like
Edit.
you just showed up here and the doors were closing?
Yes, I talk about it all the time, especially with our show.
Uh-huh.
I feel like we Indiana Jones slid
We did.
and like grabbed the hat
Right.
before the immense like pile up of things that were getting developed pre-COVID.
Right. When I started endeavoring to be an actor, endeavoring to be a stand-up comic. Like it felt like there was enormous opportunity, and that people were still spending stupid money.
Yeah.
Stupid money on stupid things all the time. And I went, okay, I
me
can
be in
cash
that.
in on some stupid money.
Yeah.
That's if people are that broad
Yeah.
and that stupid that they're just going to spend dumb money, there's room for me.
Yeah,
But I don't
it's
know.
smart to cash in on stupid money.
Yeah.
It's a good
Plus,
strategy.
you're a little bit of an OG Nepo baby, right? In a way.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But my
your
father
family worked-
said, don't go into show business. This
Yeah,
is a terrible business. Don't go in. And I thought, no, there's
As he's counting stupid money.
Yeah, there's just stupid money. No,
He's like, son, you're not going to want
his
to
money
do
was
this.
hard earned, sadly.
Well,
He was-
the stupid money was coming.
stupid
was
money
trickling
came
through.
later for
Yeah.
people like me.
Yeah.
And he was wrong that I couldn't make money in it for a while at least, but it is, it's definitely morphing and changing in a very weird way.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we did a show, the show wouldn't pay for lunch and dinner. Like the show would pay for one meal.
Yeah.
Like,
Skinny.
That's fine because we don't eat that much. We
I
don't
know,
need that much.
it's fine, it is fine. But when I started working, they were, they lunch and dinner, and you're just,
Yeah.
Yep.
My last job, we got lunch on Fridays.
there you go.
And that was it.
Right,
Yeah.
no, a coffee run,
No,
nobody's having a
God,
coffee run.
laugh.
They had paid coffee runs.
Yeah.
They had, swag. People got 10 sweatshirts and hats and things. I got to make swag for this show. I can't figure out this logo. You can help me. This logo is
Yeah, we're gonna-
unswaggable.
We do.
I got you.
Actually, yeah, if we're going to burn you a little for being Gen X, we can do a lot with this logo. This is
Right.
giving too basic a font.
All right. Well, figure
we
out
can
the
do a
font.
lot
Are you
more.
fucking kidding me with the font?
No, this
The font's not the problem.
No, it is.
It's a
I-
giant yellow
It's the
sun.
colors.
That's the problem.
because that's Times New Roman.
I don't
But I
care.
actually like the name in Times New Roman. I think we
Do
would
you?
do different with the title and the colors.
The whole point was the title, Don't Be Alone. I want to separate with, so it's not Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, the pervy
Right.
version.
Right.
I want the people to think of the pervy version, but then not
Yeah.
really think of the pervy. So Don't Be Alone with, and then, in a separate font, smaller thing. Then Jake Hogan separated.
Okay.
Separated by colors, separated by.
Yeah.
So that was the whole idea.
And
I
was
didn't
this
care what the
Canva
fonts
Pro?
were.
It's all about fonts, though.
This was Canva Pro.
Yeah.
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 It's a good investment.
I know.
I just think some tweaks. If you really want to talk about it, we can talk about
All
it.
right,
after this.
Canva. She turned me on to Canva.
Love
also, the
Canva.
title is brave in the post Me Too movement. But
What have I got to lose?
But I
is
love
brave.
it. I mean, as a millennial, I think it's funny.
Producer Ryan said, "You got to take a risk, kid."
Yeah.
I've been in this business for 40 years.
He's smoking a cigar right
Yeah,
now.
I know.
It's so crazy.
He said, "You got to make it pervy, or else they're not going to
And the
listen."
kids aren't going to come.
But then it's also giving, don't be alone. It's a sense of community.
That's originally why I
Yeah.
created
Yeah.
it, was so that people wouldn't be alone, and then I changed it. But it's sort of like, it really was about the people, me thinking that people Charlie's age and everybody else are just not communicating face to face.
Yeah.
They are texting with each
That's
other.
real.
Even we text with each other.
Yeah.
And living,
Gen Z is calling it fexting when you fight over text.
okay.
Really?
Ew.
I just learned that today.
Fexting.
That sounds.
It sounds like extracting pimples.
Yeah, I was like, there's a goo involved of some
Fexting.
kind.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
festering. It
that's
sounds
every
like.
generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every generation
There's
has
a
a
goo
goo involved.
involved.
It's just the way it is.
I like
strange.
I like the original thought of "Don't be alone." That's
Right.
cute.
It feels like they're it's comforting you in a way. It's like there's a voice coming from above saying like, "Don't be alone, Jake Hogan."
That's right.
Oh.
That's that too. But I don't want to be alone, but I don't want other people to feel lonely either. This is a weird way to do it because it's so technological and so separating. And, my audience can contact me through channels.
Yeah.
Not through me
Email.
directly.
Oh, through
Through
channels.
people's. Yeah, through channels. I can write in at dbawjk@gmail.com, and I communicate with them.
Such
We have
an
notes
easy
for that.
email.
What?
We have
Yeah,
notes
we're
for
gonna
that.
have to fix that email.
Remember when Mary's email was Mr. Yram?
Wait, yes, we can't make fun of your email without talking about Mary's old one.
Yeah.
It was Mr. Yram.
Which wasn't it Naomi who said you've got to change
Yeah,
that email?
Naomi goes, "You're not gonna work a day in this city."
Naomi with her New York accent. You're not going to work.
The old email was more cumbersome. The old email was like, "Don't be alone with Jake Hogan" at
It
gmail.com.
was all spelled out.
Like the whole thing was spelled, or "Don't be
Yeah.
alone W Jake." Like
So now it's DBAJC.
WJK?
DBAWJK. Just all the initials.
Don't be alone, JK.
With the W still.
Oh, the
I'm
width
fine
is
with
there.
it.
D-ball.
I'm fine with that.
D-ball, Jake. And there's the fans are called debauchers.
Debunkers.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Nice.
like that.
Yeah, it's a big, giant community.
Yeah.
It's a giant community.
I mean, from my perspective, it really is.
Yeah.
And I will say you're accomplishing your goal because if I'm on a walk or something, I listen to the podcast and it's my
Yes.
friend's voice.
Exactly.
And I
It's
don't feel
Brown's
alone.
voice if I'm so lucky to hear Brown's
Right.
voice on there.
No, and
and then I
that's-
don't feel alone.
That's exactly right. I feel that way when we just saw your movie, Kyle's movie.
Yeah.
Then I got to see Kyle. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
And he's did a fun short movie about edible arrangements that you can find on my Twitter and Facebook
Yes.
if you want to see. But it's very funny.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
delightful.
Did you like the part
very-
where I stared into the barrel of the camera and I said, "Hi, Jay"?
I heard
Or
it
do
and
you
saw it.
feel
I did
well?
like that. I would always like a personal greeting.
Hi, Jay.
And my favorite thing is every time I've gotten edible arrangements, and I've always been a little disappointed when they do come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those weird fruit flies show up. What the fuck is
They're
with
awful,
them?
and
Well, they're fruit.
They
Yeah.
were so. It was too juicy, and I think that they're juicing the fruit. I think that
Like injecting
like
the
the
fruit with
slices of
juice?
pineapple were exploding with juice, and we were. It was so gross.
I think it's just like rotting fruit potentially. Like,
Every
Maybe.
generation has its goo.
yeah.
I was just gonna
That's the
say.
takeaway. But yeah,
Yeah.
we really got to work on this, I think.
Hey, it's all about branding me, guys.
Exactly.
This thing is my new great career.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
I do think there's a mass exodus happening. Like a lot of my friends have moved away to Texas.
They can't hack it.
Oh, get out, please
Yes.
leave.
Yeah, that's all right.
And a lot of the advice I've gotten from other old fogies
Yeah.
who have been here and have had success,
Yeah.
they're literally like, just don't leave.
Yeah, stay.
They're like, everyone else will eventually leave. You stay.
Yeah.
By the way, that is absolutely 100% true. I have friends who hung in there. And they hung in there, and eventually they became somebody. And they
There we go.
got work. It's like a lot of people leave.
Yeah.
A lot of people go away. A lot of people who hung in are working actors and actresses and writers and comedians and what have you. They finally, it took a long time to Kathy Griffin to become Kathy Griffin.
Yeah.
But there she is. She's Kathy Griffin. And she says she's not going to do my show. Whatever.
Why?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Hey.
Why?
Screw you, Kathy Griffin. No. Kathy's busy, but she might come. She might deign to do the show. But we're
Once
gonna
you're on
talk about
Spotify.
it. I know.
But
I
look,
know.
we were here before you were on Spotify.
I know. So who do I
And we
owe?
were also here before Kathy Griffin was.
Yeah.
Kathy Griffin and I went on a date. A date with the Groundlings. We were in the same class as the Groundlings.
Oh, yeah,
we
the
wanted to go see
Groundlings.
I wanted to go see a show that I wanted to go see. So yeah, well, let's go. And so we went to the show together. And somewhere in the middle of the thing, I realized she thinks this is a date.
You didn't think it was a date?
No, I
thought
said,
it
I'm
was
going
a
to go to
date.
this show. She said, I want to go to the show. I said, can I go with you? I said, sure. And I didn't know.
Jay.
I didn't
Well, he
know.
was already going. It wasn't like you asked her.
No, I didn't
to-
ask her.
to
She
join
asked
you.
herself.
Sure.
I said, well, maybe we'll eat first. Great.
What made you realize
you got
that she
dinner
thought it was a
first?
date?
She wanted me to pay. That's what a date is. Like the friends go together, everybody pays for themselves. She wanted me to pay. She was insulted that I was.
So you said, let's split?
Well, I said, here we go, like the dinner. She was insulted.
This
She
is
was
so.
insulted.
This is such a comedy boy thing to do.
Yeah, all right. Well, I didn't know.
It's such an improv boy
I'm
thing to
so-
be like.
Oof.
I didn't know this was a date, pretty
I-
lady. Oh,
I did not pick up
Pretty
on the
single
signals.
woman.
when I was younger, I did not pick up on the signals, and I probably still don't. But it's like,
That's
fortunately,
okay.
I don't have to.
Yeah, you
But
found
I-
someone great. You don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. We're gonna wrap this
We
up.
gotta
because
wrap this up.
I'm gonna. So
You have
so
somewhere to be.
but before we wrap it up, I'm sure I've done a very good job with you guys and giving you as much of myself as I can without smothering you. Right? I'm good. I'm proud of that. But what could I do to be a little less embarrassing to your friends?
walk around in a bathrobe all the
Okay,
time.
well, no, I mean,
I think like a tailored like white tuxedo with like
Yeah.
white crocodile shoes.
Uh-huh.
Like let's just kind of like
Wolfhead cane.
yeah. Let's just kind of like pimp out your look.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Right.
do think like
that would be then I would be
clothes-wise.
less embarrassed.
Yeah.
But keep the baseball hat.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
Double
you
fisting
always
Emmys.
rock a hat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
carry your
Yeah.
Emmys. Always bring your Emmys. Put your Emmys on a chain.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
And just kind of always stand behind us and like don't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're making me more embarrassing. I'm
Yeah,
a much
I am.
more embarrassing grandpa.
Seriously though,
Yeah.
I don't think that you should be worried about young people thinking that you're cool or
No, but they don't think I'm cool.
I don't think
they don't want to be embarrassing.
You shouldn't like ingratiate. Like they should be so lucky. Any of these
Right.
people should be so lucky to reach a fraction of what you have personally achieved.
Yeah, and
And
have
I
a
think-
friendship with you.
I don't know, like the nature of like the comedy and the industry at large, like it's always gonna be like looking for like the hot young new thing, but like the hot young new thing doesn't always have the skill set
Yeah.
and like a point of view, and if you're just like continuing to be steady in like what you bring to the table, then I think it'll attract hot,
Comedy-
young cool things to want to learn
Yeah,
from
here
you.
we are.
You are the young cool things, but the comedy has a youthful energy. It just does.
Yeah.
So comedy, there's an energy that's required for comedy, and,
Yeah.
and I think people tucker out at a certain point.
Right.
Older
Oh, that's
comedians
a great
do tucker
point.
out.
Yeah.
And so it got to a certain point where is he too old to be that silly and do the thing? So that you worry about that for
Yeah.
you as me as a performer and as a writer. Like, do I have that youthful, fun energy? And how can I? If I don't, how do I get it, or how do I keep it before it all dies?
I saw it majorly during the strike because you were like picketing every day and you were like so excited to like have your signs and wear the t-shirt and be with your friends and try to like
That's
show
easy.
up.
Walking around
I
with a
know,
sign.
I hear that,
Writing
but it was
scripts
like
is hard.
I felt like you had this youth, like when I saw you on the picket line, it was you had this like youthful. It felt like a young Jay fighting for like other people to take that spot.
Yeah, okay.
too. And
that was
I
me
felt like
fighting for the younger
as-
generation for sure.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
like
right.
bummer as the strike was, I
Yeah,
felt
it
like
was a bummer.
yeah, but you also like you know, I don't know, it
All
brought
right.
out an energy.
Well,
I think
okay,
fuck
then-
youthful energy.
Fuck youthful energy.
Fuck
That's
youthful
interesting.
energy. Like it, like you were saying of like just don't leave. Like it's a survival. It's a
Right.
survivor endurance challenge.
Right.
Hang on, cling to that pole as long as you can.
Because this what's going to happen is show business will condense and reconfigure,
Yeah.
and you'll be here when it does, and suddenly,
yeah.
boom.
We're the old ones.
This
what
is
you're saying.
no. You're. I will say that you will have honed your craft more than when you first showed up. You'll have done
sure.
many more experiences in terms of writing and production and everything else. Although you've done a lot of that stuff by making the stuff on your own.
Yeah.
So when it's time to shine, when it's time to go, you are prepped and ready to go. It's just show business has to sort itself the fuck out and
Yeah.
say we're going to make money doing this now, as opposed to we're all afraid to do anything, which is where we're at right now.
Yeah.
You know what I've always thought? Like, I watched Survivor all the time growing up with my family. We were like religious about watching Survivor. And I was always like, I can't do like the physical challenges. I can't do the disgusting eating challenges. But the ones that since I was young and I still feel like I could always win are the endurance challenges where they're like, stand on this pole in the swamp all day.
Right.
And people would give up and I'd be like, I would win that one. And that's how it kind
Can
of
we test
feels
that?
right
I have
now.
a poll.
Yeah.
Yeah, do
okay,
it.
I got it.
Get
Let's
up on
see
the
the poll.
Do it. You
But
won't.
to answer your question, okay. To answer your question, I think it's more, especially for you, like reflecting what I think keeps you like relevant and working on cool new things and wanting to like learn what's new and have community and build community is like that you, I think, came into this project with a playfulness and curiosity. You know, like you're a white man who's 20 to 30 to maybe 40 years older than us, 30 years older than us,
Third, probably.
25.
Yeah.
I don't know.
30?
It's math.
35.
But
For
you
your sake,
came in-
35.
But you know, it could have been like another, you know, a young woman's production company who was like, "Oh, young women, let's do this." But you came in and you were curious enough to be like, "Cool, let's get involved. I
Yeah.
want to learn about it. I want." And you
weren't
still
scared.
are. Like,
No,
I think
wanna-
that's what keeps you like in cool projects because you're playful and curious.
I am curious.
And that's
I
a
wanna do
youthful
that.
energy in
Okay.
itself.
I think that people, that's ageless. That people who are curious
Yeah.
remain curious, and people who aren't
Yeah.
are stodgy can be stodgy at 17. So
exactly.
It's fine. All right.
Yeah.
Here we do listener mail. So let's listen to our listener mail theme.
Oh my gosh.
Now it's time for listener mail.
It's a very long note.
I love
That was
Really,
beautiful.
Kogan.
Wow.
This was sent in from a listener. I'm not sure which listener because I didn't write their name, but they asked, "What is your favorite comedy album and how did it influence you?" Now, you may not have a favorite comedy album, so you can change the question to comedy thing.
I have one immediately, and it's I saw Sarah Silverman's Jesus is Magic.
Right.
And she had this joke in it where she's talking about she said that her grandma had just passed away, and there was this joke where she's like, obviously the grandma, I'm butchering this bit, but she's like, she's very old and everything, and she gets like emotional. She like, you're not sure if she's telling a joke anymore. And then she's like, obviously, I suspect foul play. And she tells us really, it just keeps on going on and on of her saying that she's getting a full rape exam done on her dead grandma. And then she starts crying again. She goes, please let them find cum in my dead grandma. And I just remember, like, it took me on such a ride. And I was like, you can do, like, you can, especially because I think stand-up at the time felt really like, it always feels presentational, but like, you're always aware that something that you were watching an act, and then for like a brief moment you were like, oh no, she's really gonna cry on stage, and everyone, you can feel it in the audience. I just thought that was so magical.
Sarah is, aside from being very funny, one of the bravest performers I know.
Yeah.
And that's that's her magic. She's unafraid.
Yeah, unafraid, and changed. Yeah, I was like, okay, this is, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
For me, it was always like women, female actors who were really physically funny, like Lucille Ball, obviously, and like, you know, Laverne and Shirley, like you mentioned that. And, you know, when in the 90s, we had Nick at Night, which was like huge. And those were the two main shows that were playing, was Laverne and Shirley and I Love Lucy, at least when I was watching.
Right.
And I just remember, like, I remember thinking, okay, these women aren't necessarily like, oh, the most bodacious, hottest women, but they're making people fall in love with them by the way they like carry themselves. And Gilda Radner was like that too. And I was like, oh my God, I want to make people love me based on like making them laugh and moving, like contouring my body weird and making silly faces. Like I was like, that's how I'm gonna get. That's how I'm gonna get people on my side.
I'm not alone.
Right.
So yeah,
Did not bother you that Lucille Ball's character was an idiot at many times and just taking?
But I think they knew. Like I think there's an intelligence to that. To being,
it was
like,
intelligently written and brilliantly played.
To being the joke.
The thing that you're not supposed, the one thing, don't do this one thing, and then that's the thing she does.
Right.
That was not, you didn't want to rip your hair out? Because I did when I watched those things. I was like, I was so
because
frustrated.
I was watching her physicality, like the way she would carry herself and the faces she was making were brilliant. And so
Brown's favorite
so
thing of all time, I Love Lucy, and she actually incorporates, I think she has that character of Lucy Ricardo in her soul.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's definitely in her soul. And when she's being silly, she's being like Lucy Ricardo. Not Lucille Ball, who's very unsilly and difficult.
Yes, but a serious like producer.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
But Lucy
and the
Ricardo.
opening, you know, the opening to Laverne and Shirley, it's them like in the factory and all this chaos. Like nothing was funnier to me than like women who were intentionally putting themselves in, like, because also women, especially at that time, were like supposed to be prim and proper. So it was so funny to think of them being like, well.
What's your biggest comedy influence, Lucy?
I think I've narrowed it down to 2 movies. Because the comedy albums I also wasn't really listening to. But I think it'd have to be Superstar, when I saw Superstar, and when I saw Bridesmaids.
Oh, yeah.
Because Bridesmaids came out, I think I was in high school. And I had already liked funny stuff. Superstar, I remember my dad showed me when I was younger than that, because he loved it. He loved, I keep wanting to say Mary Tyler Millennials.
Yeah. Mary Catherine
Gallagher.
Yeah.
Because my dad would always do like the hands in the armpits thing and sniff them, and I would always be like, "What is this about?"
And he's Catholic too, so
he's Catholic. And then she was just like a fucking weirdo talking to herself all the time, and I was like, "It's me, that's me." And then Bridesmaids came out, and it was an entire ensemble of funny women. And I went to the theater with my mom and my sister, and I was like crying, laughing the whole time. And I find things funny, but I don't usually, like, it doesn't usually elicit like an out loud laughter. And that movie, I was like, oh, this is like all stars, funny women doing poop jokes, pulling it off. Right. Like, yes, that to me was like, let's go for it.
Paul Feig, who's a friend of mine, his example made me not fear working with you guys on a girl show. Like, in other words, for that very reason, like if he can be the girl director, why can't I? Like, we're from the same world. He dresses a lot better than I do. But I'm saying like that.
Women are funny and gross.
Yeah, but I mean, but also his thing was the same thing. He's going to help people who wrote the screenplay, women who wrote the screenplay, women who want to star in it, do that thing and not stand in their way, but add to it.
Yeah.
Like, if Paul can do that, and he's an idiot,
Yeah.
well, I can do that. So
Exactly.
there you go. Yeah. So
Oh,
And
I
he's an
love to
idiot.
hear that. I didn't know that was a big influence for you
yeah,
too.
sure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
dope.
All right. Last thing before we go, as the moment of joy.
A moment of joy.
You should hold it for a little longer.
Yeah,
Just a
he
little
should
longer.
actually.
What makes you happy? What's one thing that just really makes you happy?
Food.
Okay.
Lately, I've been like really indulging in like, eating what I want and just like going for it.
COVID style, like pandemic style.
Just like if I like want like a bagel with lox and capers, I'll just like go to the store and get it right
Right.
away.
Okay.
Before I used to be like, no, don't just eat what you have in your fridge.
Right. No, good for you.
Yeah.
Treating yourself. For me, it's like a really, really good dance night. Like when you go into the spot and the spot is popping and the vibes are on and the DJ's good and you're with your friends and you're busting a move.
Hey, you can't make that face. You want
Come
to stay
on.
young.
Have
Don't act like you
ever
don't
had-
know, Jay.
You know when you find like, this is actually a quote
I'm trying
from
to figure
Broad
out, are
City.
you serious?
I'm serious. You know when you
She's
find like
being
the
so
Narnia
serious.
of part, when you
Yeah.
walk in and you're like, this is it.
I did go dancing this weekend and I nearly threw out my back.
Okay.
So, it's 31, it looks different on everyone.
Sure. Sure. But backaches is basically everybody.
Yeah.
That's all right.
But that didn't happen in my early 20s, but that's okay.
sure.
Lately, I got a lot of joy out of watching The Gilded Age recently.
Yeah,
Oh.
you
I've been-
love the Gilded Age.
I've been really into little to no stakes. Frequently, there are episodes where the only conflict is like who will or will not be invited to lunch.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, just let me.
Yeah.
You must love The Crown.
It's I was very into The Crown, but The Crown even then is like
Crown is very high stakes.
it's very
No, it's not. Will
very
Princess
stupid.
Elizabeth be able to wear this red dress?
Yeah.
It's never happened before. Oh my God.
It's
Let's
dumb,
talk
but,
with
like-
18 diplomats and then I'm going to wear the red dress.
I respectfully
the writing and the
disagree.
performances and like the way that the tone of the show feels way more intense than
Yeah.
the Gilded Age does.
Because
And
the British royal family, the stakes
Yeah,
are really high.
fuck
It's
them.
life or death sometimes.
Yeah.
it feels like it's life or death. But there was an episode recently where they're at, it was the highest stakes that it had been. There's a dinner and there's a duke at the dinner. And someone like did something to the duke's soup. And they're bringing...
That's the
Duke
Gilded
soup.
Age?
They're in the
Duke's
Gilded
soup.
Age, and they're because a duke is
Right.
visiting one of the families, and they're bringing the soup is being brought to the duke, and the camera's just following the soup. And my boyfriend and I are on the edge of our seat. We start screaming at the TV, and I had this moment where I sort of just like I left my body, and I looked at us, two grown men screaming at a bowl of soup.
Yes.
And I was like, "This is." I think it made me so happy.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Moment of joy. Low stakes drama.
Yeah.
Low stakes drama. All right,
What's
well, that's
yours?
good. I have been interested in lately reading books and watching movies about fixers.
Oh, like Olivia
Scandal.
Pope.
The fixers, scandal fixers, but also like mob fixers or people like Mr. The Wolf. Do you ever see Pulp Fiction?
Yes.
And Harvey Keitel's character, the Wolf. So he comes.
Yeah.
He's they shoot people in the back of the car. They don't know what to do, and they need the Wolf.
Yeah.
Now, famously, I think is the worst fixer on the face of the planet because he says, "Wash the car." Like it's all low stakes. Like, well, get the car washed. Thanks, fixer. And then they wash the car, they hose it down. But there are other shows and things about fixers that are interesting. I'm trying to write a pilot of drama pilot about a fixer for the mob who doesn't want to be a mobster, but is just smarter than everybody else and so forced into this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like shows about super smart people.
Yeah. Me too.
That's why you liked
must
us.
hate our show.
Your show's smart. Your show's smart, but it has to be. But you have to. It has to make sense, and it has to be smart and emotionally intelligent, and it is. It is. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
I love you guys. I love you guys. I don't
We
just.
love you.
I don't just
I
like
agree.
you. I love you guys, and I think you're incredibly talented. But even if you weren't talented, I would love you guys. But the fact that you are incredibly talented makes me love you all the more. And I think it's fantastic that we've had a chance to work together. I think it's a crying shame that it's taken this long to work together. But I think it's fantastic that we got a chance, and we'll continue to have a chance. We're going to push this forward until it dies or it succeeds.
Yeah.
And then maybe something else will come along.
Exactly.
If it does.
Exactly.
So we'll see.
And
Anyway.
we love you too.
We do love you,
Good.
Jay.
Well, you're kind of obligated to say it now.
Yeah,
You couldn't
but
walk away.
we love
we
you
unfortunately
too.
love you.
Yeah,
We've
I
gotten
know.
to that place.
Well, thanks for being here and thanks for trying to hand me my ass. But you were so nice to me.
I know, we
So-
were really nice.
You were too
You've
nice.
only
Except
ever been
for
nice to
Biffles.
us.
Never forget
Yeah.
Biffles.
I'll never forget Biffles.
Biffles, dust muffins, Biffles. It's
Dust
a no.
muffins.
One of
Dust
them was
muffins.
something
It
with
was
a muffin.
egg
I
and
never said dust muffins.
I
It was
swear it was
something-
I don't think I
egg
ever said
McMuffin.
Biffles either, but that's fine.
McMuffins. You said McMuffins.
It was a wild pitch. I almost wish you pitched something offensive.
It's in a text message somewhere, so we
All
can
right,
find
you
it.
should find
We'll
it.
find
Yeah.
it for the
All right,
show.
well, thank you for being here, and thank you, the audience, for being with us on Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, which is a terrible logo, apparently,
We're
but
gonna
it's just
fix
what we've
it.
got. And please subscribe to the show if you get a chance, and subscribe whether you're on YouTube or listening to the podcast, and tune in again next week. And if you have the opportunity, don't be alone. Share something with somebody.
Yes.
That's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Don't be alone.